My girlfriend's feminist friend ruined our relationship. I read it. I don't usually make these kinds of posts, but honestly I need to vent and maybe get some perspective that can help me deal with this situation. My name is Abraham, I'm 24, I'm a pretty calm and laid-back guy, and I've been in a wonderful relationship for the last 8 months with my girlfriend, Maida. Or at least that's how it was until recently. Before I get into the details of what's happening, I want to give you a bit of context. I met Maida in a first aid course I took about 8 months ago. Truth is, I only went because my university required it, not because I was actually interested in the subject. But that turned out to be one of the best unintentional decisions I've ever made because that's where I met Maida. From the very first day we talked, we connected in an incredible way. We realized we shared a ton of interests, especially our love for comics. We spent hours talking about our favorite stories and characters, swapping recommendations and even debating which is the best Batman arc. She says The Long Halloween, I prefer Hush. Our relationship has been beautiful. We understand each other, we support each other, and most importantly, we respect each other. Or at least that's how it was until Carla showed up. Carla is a girl Maida met about a month ago. Apparently they became friends at a university conference on women's rights. So far so good. I have zero problem with my girlfriend making new friends. In fact, I like that she has a wide social circle and gets exposed to different perspectives. But Carla is different. From the first moment I met her, I could tell her attitude toward me was hostile. The first time I saw her was at a cafe. Maida had invited me to join them because she wanted us to meet. I had no issue with that. However, the conversation with Carla was awkward from the start. She greeted me curtly, like she didn't want to interact with me at all. Then every time I spoke, she made weird, out-of-place comments. At one point, when I mentioned that Maida and I had been watching a series together, Carla blurted out something like, "Of course, because I'm sure he's the one who chooses what to watch, right?" Classic patriarchy. I laughed thinking it was a joke, but she looked at me dead serious and kept going on about how men control everything, even their partner's entertainment choices. I tried to explain that Maida and I decide together what to watch and that actually she's usually the one who picks, but it seemed Carla had already made up her mind about me. Since that day, I've noticed Maida has changed a little. She started repeating some of the phrases Carla uses all the time, like, "Men always think they're right," or, "Machismo is in every aspect of society." Don't get me wrong, I have no problem with Maida having her own opinions or wanting to learn more about certain topics. But I feel like Carla is trying to manipulate her and make her see our relationship as something it's not. For example, a few days ago Maida told me that Carla had pointed out that when we go out to dinner, I usually pay the bill. Maida asked me if I expected her never to pay or if I did it because I thought it was my duty as a man. The question surprised me because I'd never thought of it that way. I explained that I pay because I like treating her and because I enjoy making her feel special, but that if she ever wants to pay or split the bill, I have absolutely no problem with that. She seemed to understand, but I noticed she was left thinking. Another incident happened when Maida and I were planning a weekend trip. We'd always talked about taking a trip together and we finally had the chance. However, when I told Maida I'd booked a cabin in the mountains, her reaction wasn't what I expected. She said Carla had told her that men always make the big decisions and that she should have more say in those things. I was confused because I'd actually chosen that cabin because it was a place Maida had mentioned several times that she'd love to visit. I reminded her of that and she calmed down, but again I felt she was questioning our relationship in a way she never used to. The straw that broke the camel's back happened a couple of days ago. Maida and I were at her apartment, enjoying a quiet night. We were watching a movie when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Carla. After reading it, Maida paused the movie and looked at me strangely. I asked what was wrong, and she said Carla had sent her an article about how to spot relationships with unequal power dynamics and that she wanted to talk about it with me. At that moment I felt like I was losing the Maida I knew. I asked her if she really thought our relationship had that problem, and she said she wasn't sure, but after talking to Carla she'd realized that a lot of things she used to see as normal might not be. I asked her for concrete examples and she mentioned things like me usually driving when we go out, me giving her gifts more often than she gives me, and that in arguments I tend to speak in a calmer tone, which could be a form of emotional manipulation. At that point I felt completely lost. I've never in my life manipulated Maida or tried to impose myself on her. We've always had a relationship based on respect and communication. But now, because of Carla's influence, she's starting to see everything in a new light, as if I were the villain in our story. I don't know what to do, Reddit. I love Maida and I want our relationship to stay strong. But I feel like Carla is interfering and planting ideas that are hurting us. I don't want to forbid her from being friends with whoever she wants, but I also don't want to lose the relationship I value so much. How do I handle this without seeming controlling or insecure? How can I help Maida see that our relationship isn't what Carla is making her believe? Any advice would be welcome. I'll keep updating if anything else happens. Thanks for reading. Update 1. Hi everyone, Abraham here again. First of all, thank you to everyone who commented on my first post. I got tons of supportive messages, advice, and also some criticism. Some comments were from girls saying this was a made-up story just to discredit feminism, but I want to make it clear that's not the case. I've always respected the movement. Even if I don't consider myself an ally or have never marched, I understand it's trying to bring positive change to society. My problem isn't feminism. It's people like Carla who, with their radical attitude, end up making the whole movement look bad. That said, let me tell you what's happened in the past few weeks, because things have gone from bad to worse. Since I wrote the first post, I've noticed much more obvious changes in Maida. She's not the same girl I started dating anymore. Carla is still very present in her life and I think her influence has reached worrying levels. Before, Maida and I could talk about anything without issues, but now it feels like everything I do is wrong. I've tried to stay calm, be patient and not react negatively, but it's getting harder every day. One of the biggest issues has been the way I treat her. Since we started dating, I've always had certain natural gestures with her, like opening the car door for her or paying the bill when we go out. I never did it to belittle her or because I think she can't do it herself. I was just raised that way. But in the last few weeks this has become a constant source of fights. She says she doesn't need me to open the door for her, that it's machismo disguised as chivalry and that I'm perpetuating gender roles. I tried to explain that I don't do it because I think I'm superior, but because I like being attentive to her, yet she refuses to hear it. Now if I try, she gives me a look of disgust or tells me directly to stop. Another situation that's become unbearable is that now she distrusts me for no reason. A few days ago we were talking about a guy from her university who had been bothering her and saying uncomfortable things. I told her that if she wanted, I could go with her when she had to see him so she would feel safer. She replied that I was acting like I owned her and that it was toxic behavior. I tried to explain that wasn't the case, that I just wanted to support her, but the argument ended with her telling me I was blindly the same as that guy, just that she hadn't realized it yet. It hurt me tremendously that she could think that of me. The most critical point came a few days ago when out of nowhere she accused me of being capable of cheating just because I'm a man. Yes, you read that right. We were at her place watching a movie when in the middle of the conversation she said something like, "All men cheat sooner or later. I wouldn't be surprised if you did too or already have." I laughed a bit, thinking it was a joke, but when I saw she was serious I knew she meant it. I asked why she would say that and her answer was that statistically men are more unfaithful than women and that sooner or later I'd do the same to her. I tried to stay calm and asked if she really thought I was capable of that, but she just shrugged and said, "I don't trust men." That broke me. After 8 months together, after everything we've been through, does she really think that of me? Since that day the relationship has been hanging by a thread. I love her so much, but I don't know what to do anymore. I can't talk to her without everything turning into a problem. Even my friends have noticed I'm not the same, that I look down and stressed all the time. One of them told me I should end it before it affects me even more, but it hurts me to even consider it. I love her and I want this to work, but it's feeling harder every day. Another problem is that Carla has started getting directly involved in our relationship. Maida tells her everything that happens between us, and then, like her personal advisor, Carla tells her what to do. One day Maida told me she thought I was too traditional and that maybe I needed to deconstruct myself. When I asked why she said that, she answered that Carla had explained to her that healthy relationships have no gender roles and that I was still stuck in an old mindset. I wonder if she really believes that or if she's just repeating what her friend tells her. I feel like I'm losing the girl I fell in love with. I don't know if this has a solution or if it's time to accept that this relationship is going nowhere. Should I keep trying? Or should I realize there's nothing left to do? I appreciate any advice you can give me. I don't want to make a decision I'll regret later. Update 2. Hi again everyone. After my last post, things seemed to get better for a while. Like many of you suggested, I had a serious talk with Maida about how I was feeling regarding her change in attitude. It was a long conversation where we touched on several topics related to feminism, her friendship with Carla, and how it was all affecting our relationship. To my surprise, Maida admitted she'd been changing in a somewhat extreme way and promised she'd try to be more understanding. For my part, I committed to learning more about the subject, even going to a feminist march with her to better understand the movement from the inside. I have to confess that at first I was scared. I'd seen a lot of videos on social media where men were looked down on or even kicked out of marches, and I didn't want to end up in an uncomfortable or dangerous situation. In the end, though, I decided to go. And honestly, I was surprised. The march itself was pretty peaceful. There were lots of women expressing themselves freely, sharing their experiences, and at no point did I feel in danger or out of place, except for one person, Carla. From the moment we arrived, she wouldn't stop making uncomfortable comments. Things like, men only come to watch us to see if they can find a feminist girlfriend to redeem themselves, or we should have men-free marches, we don't need them here. I tried to ignore her because I didn't want to cause trouble, but the worst part was when we ran into a group of girls sharing their experiences with gender violence. I was paying attention, trying to understand their point of view, when Carla looked at me and said out loud, "You shouldn't be here, this isn't for you. Leave before someone thinks you're an infiltrator." Maida was right next to me and said nothing. Not a single word. She just looked at me with an uncomfortable expression. At that moment I felt all the effort I'd put into trying to understand her perspective collapse. I spent the rest of the march in silence, walking beside Maida but not really feeling part of what was happening. The following days were even worse. Maida went back to acting strange, more distant, more aggressive with me in discussions. Now every time we talked about anything related to men and women, it seemed she already had an argument ready against me, as if everything I said was wrong just because I'm a man. We even got to the point of arguing because she insisted I shouldn't open the car door for her or do any chivalrous acts because it was sexist. That had never been a problem before, but now everything I did seemed to be a source of conflict. I talked to my friends about it and they all told me the same thing. Let it go, this relationship has no future. And honestly, I'm starting to think they're right. I know Maida isn't a bad person, but I feel she's being manipulated by Carla and that the relationship we had at the beginning no longer exists. It hurts me a lot to say it, but for the first time I'm seriously considering whether it's worth keep fighting for this relationship or if it's time to walk away. What do you think? Am I overreacting or is this really beyond saving? Update 3. Hi again Reddit. I didn't think I'd be back so soon, but here I am. It's over. We broke up. I want to tell you everything because I know many of you have been following since the first post and gave me advice. Some telling me to leave already, others to try talking to her. Well, I tried. I really tried, but the last week was hell. Every single day there was a new fight. I'm not exaggerating when I say something different became a problem every day. If I talked about something at work, it was a problem. If I mentioned a female coworker, it was a problem. If I watched a show with a female lead and said the character was well written, it was a problem because I probably fancied her. Everything was a problem. One night we argued because, according to her, all men are cheaters. I told her that was ridiculous, that I'd never cheated on her or given her any reason to think I would. Her response was, "You haven't yet, but you will because you're a man and that's what men do." I was in shock. I tried to explain that was an absurd generalization, but she simply wouldn't listen. Another day the argument was about kids. I don't even plan on having kids anytime soon. She asked me if I wanted my surname to come first and I just said, "That's how it's always done, isn't it?" She called me a macho, said I wanted to impose my lineage and that children should have the mother's surname first. She said if I really loved her I'd understand that the father's surname doesn't have to come first. She got angry and just left. That was the tone of the whole week. Fight after fight. More and more exhausting. More and more frustrating. And I felt she was no longer the Maida I'd fallen in love with. One day, after yet another fight, I sat in my room thinking about how everything had changed. Before, when we argued over silly things, there was always a way to calm down and fix it. And I remembered something. Maida loved sunflowers. They had always been her favorite. When we started dating, I gave her one and she told me it was the most beautiful flower in the world. Every time I gave her a sunflower, her face would light up and for a moment everything was perfect. I thought maybe this could help. That if I reminded her of what we had, of who we were before all this, it might work. Maybe a nice gesture would make her think about all the good we had together. So I went and bought a sunflower. I also got her favorite chocolates. I called her and said I wanted to see her at the park where we used to walk when we first started dating. She said yes, so I went with the hope that this could be a new beginning. When she arrived, I saw her differently. She was no longer the same sweet girl from before. Her expression was serious, almost like she was ready for another fight. But I tried not to think about that. I took out the sunflower and the chocolates and handed them to her. What happened next left me in shock. She looked at the sunflower and her face twisted in a mix of anger and contempt. "What is this supposed to be?" she asked coldly. "It's a sunflower. Your favorite flower," I answered with a weak smile. "And the chocolates? What is this supposed to mean?" Her tone was getting more aggressive. "It means I want us to remember what we had. That I want us to be okay," I said, feeling smaller and smaller under her scornful gaze. She grabbed the sunflower and threw it on the ground. Then she tossed the chocolates aside and crossed her arms. "I don't need you to buy me things. I'm not a little girl you can calm down with candy and flowers. This is exactly what bothers me about you. Always trying to fix everything with stupid gestures instead of accepting that you have sexist attitudes." That was the moment something inside me broke. I stayed silent for a few seconds and felt a wave of anger and disappointment wash over me. "You know what? I'm done," I finally said, my voice firmer than I expected. "I've tried everything. I've listened to you, I've changed things, I've tried to understand you. But this isn't a relationship anymore. It's a constant fight where I'm always losing. I don't want to do this anymore. It's over." Her eyes widened in surprise. For the first time in months, I saw her speechless. But then her expression changed. Her face twisted into desperation and she suddenly grabbed my arm. No, please don't leave me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I love you really, please don't leave me." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think that in that moment she had realized everything and would go back to being the Maida from before. But I was already broken. My heart was in pieces. I couldn't do it. I gently pulled away from her grip, took a step back and looked at her sadly. "I'm sorry, Maida, but this can't go on." I turned around and left. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I knew if I did, I might weaken, I might doubt myself. And I couldn't allow that. So here I am. Single again, but with the peace of mind of knowing I did everything I could. Thank you for reading and for advising me. Maybe one day I'll come back with another update, but for now I need time to heal. Update 4. Almost 2 months have passed since my last update, and I've decided to come back to tell you how things have been. I have to admit I didn't think I'd write again, but some recent events have made me reflect a lot and I feel the need to share it with you. First of all, I have to say I no longer recognize Maida. I don't just mean the person she turned into during our relationship, but what she's been doing after we broke up. At first I thought the hardest part would be dealing with the sadness and getting used to being alone again. But what I didn't expect was the amount of rumors and stories Maida would start spreading about our relationship. Some people I considered mutual friends have told me that Maida is saying she was the one who left me because I had sexist and oppressive ideas. According to her, I was a manipulator and a conservative who wouldn't let her express herself freely. At first I didn't care much because I thought people who knew me would know it wasn't true. But over time I noticed some of those mutual friends started distancing themselves from me. Some stopped answering my messages, others greeted me coldly. It's clear the gossip has had an effect. What hurts me the most is that I never wanted this to end badly. Even though the relationship became unsustainable, I always wanted to remember the good times and move on without resentment. But seeing how Maida is twisting everything that happened makes me think I never really knew her as well as I thought. Anyway, putting that aside, I want to tell you that my life has improved a lot in this time. I've focused on my career, picked up some hobbies I'd abandoned, and most importantly, I've learned a lot about myself. The truth is, when you're in a relationship where you're constantly criticized for things that used to be normal, you start doubting yourself. But now I realize the problem was never me, it was the toxic environment it had turned into. I'm not going to deny there were days when I wondered if I did the right thing. But every time I think about it, I remember the endless pointless arguments, the constant tension of not knowing what would upset Maida next, and the frustration of watching everything fall apart no matter how hard I tried. I realize I wasn't happy. And as much as it hurt, ending it was the best decision. As a final reflection, I want to say this experience has taught me a lot about relationships and the importance of keeping your individuality. In a couple, both people should grow together, support each other, and improve as individuals. But when a relationship turns into a constant battle to prove you're good enough, according to standards imposed by someone else, it's no longer love, it's a power struggle. So if anyone reading this feels their relationship is turning into something similar, I just want to say, ask yourself if you're truly happy. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. Thank you to everyone who read me and supported me through every post. I really appreciate your advice and kind words. Now all that's left is to move forward and enjoy this new chapter of my life.